1996. And today we're going to do the of Earl J. Maxwell. This is Wilma Louise Cropper Maxwell, who was married to Earl James Maxwell. She is the stepmother of Bill Maxwell, Bob Maxwell, and the mother of Glenn Maxwell and Brenda Sue Maxwell.
This is Grandmother Maxwell, and her name is Mary Elizabeth. And she's Earl's grandmother and Bill and Bobby's great-grandmother. This is up on the hill, one of the Maxwell places, and this is Tom Maxwell, and this is Santa Maxwell, his wife, which is Earl's granddaddy and grandmother, Bill and Bobby's great-granddaddy and grandmother. This is James Lester Maxwell, and Bertha Van Isdale Maxwell is Earl's dad and mother. And Mr. Maxwell is Tom Maxwell and Santa Maxwell's son. This is Bertha Van Isdale Maxwell, Mr. Maxwell's wife, with two of her grandchildren. This is Helen Wood Maxwell Summers and Kenneth Ray Maxwell, Wiley's two children. And this is Mr. Maxwell. Our revival was going on, and he came down and spent a week with us to attend the revival. This is Brother Wilson. He lived at Lewisburg at that time. And this is Brenda Sue with her dolly in her hand, poor dolly. And this is John William Barra and Betty Barra. I always call them Grandma and Grandpa. They are Mary's grandma and grandpa, and Bill and Bobby's great-grandma, great-grandpa, and grandma. Here. This is Uncle Herman Bear, Uncle Billy's and Aunt Betty's son, his wife Louella. The two ladies in the back, I don't know. This is Grandma Barra. This is Brenda Sue. This is Pa Elvis, holding his great-niece Kathy Lou Barra. And this is Glenn, and this is Lucy Watkins, Bill and Bobby's aunt. Miss Nan Barra, Mary's mother, which was Bill and Bobby's grandmother, and her good neighbor and friend, Rosie Bella. This is Uncle Herman Barra and Grandma. She's holding her great-granddaughter. And this is Evelyn Moran Barra, which is Kathy Lou's mother. This is Mary and Earl's marriage certificate. I don't know if you can read it or not. I'll give it a stab. This is to certify that in the second day of August in the year of our Lord 1930, Mr. Earl Maxwell of Auburn, Kentucky, and Mary Barra of Gasper, Kentucky, were by me united in marriage at Russellville, according to the ordinance of God and to the laws of the state of Kentucky. Witnesses was Phineas Maxwell and his wife Mabel Maxwell, and the one that performed the ceremony was C.B. Jackson. This is Earl and Mary on the day that they got married. She's a beautiful woman. This is Earl and Mary at the Gasper School at Bucksville. The occasion, I don't know. This is Earl Maxwell. He was in Detroit, Michigan at the time. Mary Barra at the time, which she was in school, and her friend Matilda Blewett, and they played basketball together. This is Lucy and Burr Watkins, and Lucy is Mary's sister and Bill and Bobby's aunt. This is Dorothy Barra, Hester Younglaw, which is Mary's sister and Bill and Bobby's aunt. This is the Maxwell portrait. This is Mr. Maxwell, Ms. Maxwell, Ted, Carlton, Venice, Wiley, George, Earl, Jewel, and Cullen, and their sister Edna May. This is Mr. Maxwell in the middle, and his brother Arthur, and his nephew Eldon Thacker. And this is a family reunion. Some of them I don't know, but it was made the time that Uncle Arthur came in for a vacation visit. This is Mr. Maxwell. This is Aunt Edna. This is Uncle Arthur. And this is Eldon Thacker. Ready?
Yeah.
This is Uncle Arthur and his niece, Grace Rogers, and his son, Owen Maxwell.
Granddaddy.
Hmm?
Granddaddy.
This is Mr. Maxwell, where he lived last before he had to go to a home to be took care of.
Mm-hmm.
This is Mr. Maxwell and Ms. Durbin, Brother Durbin, Brenda Carol Duggan, and Brenda Sue Maxwell. And Glenn is in the back, and that's made at Gasper River Common Presbyterian Church in front of it. This is down on the river at our home place. This is Mary and Bill, and they tell me he was 3 years old, and his dog Sparky. Up here.
The house.
Down here. This is a home place down on the river, and we had remodeled the house. And it has 2 downstairs bedrooms, a hallway, and then in the back the kitchen runs out and has a back porch on that side, and on this side it has another back porch, and we built a washroom on the end of it. And you see this little doorway up here? It is a door to what used to be a portico porch. And in the summertime, I would dry apples on top of the porch. This is Earl and myself and Bill and Bobby. Was over at my daddy's house, Bill Cropper's house, and this is the end of the house. We spent the weekend over there. This is down on the river at the old home place, and this building you see here is the old smokehouse. And then this is me, this is Bill, this is Bob, and this is Glenn. My brother had come home from the service on a furlough, and he was taking pictures of us. This is the house down on the river, old home place. And this is me, and Glenn, and Brenda. I had swept the porch off. See the broom laying there? I was a clean porch sweeper.
And I'd like to point out that this view shows the porch just with the front porch and a roof. And in the front view of the house here, I don't know if you can see it with this video of the picture, but the front porch had been closed in and it was a screened-in front porch. In the picture here with Mary and Billy, you can see the front porch, the front of the house at the front, a lot better. And we had the side windows to the front door that had glass in them. You could see through it.
Are you on the right picture now?
I'm on the right one.
Ready?
Yeah.
This is over at my dad's house, Bill Cropper's house. That's his new truck. And this is Earl. There's Bobby. There's Glenn. And Bill's over here. He's showing his new truck off. That was made in 1947. 48.
They got it the year I was born,
48.
in 1948.
This is at the same place, the same truck, parked at the same place. This is Earl, this is me, and that little bitty feller is Brenda. I believe she was about 2 months old. And then over here is Bill and Bobby and Glenn. He's still showing his truck off. This is Earl, and this is me, where it was up at Ada Bells and Jewels that day, and was making pictures. That's in their living room.
Go.
And this is at Ada Bells, in the same room. This is Bill, before he and Becky got married. And this is Becky in the same setting, and she had come and spent the weekend with us, and we had took her up to Jewel and Ada Bells. This is Bill and Becky, so we're still at Ada Bells, and they're trying to make people think that they are dancing, but I think they're getting ready to throw some punches. Ha ha.
The heavyweight and the little weight.
Ready?
Yeah.
This is the day that Bill and Becky got married. We're over at Franklin, at Brother Louise's house. And this is Bill, this is Becky, and this is her brother Henry. He gave her away. And this is me over here. I was the matron of honor. This is Bill with Becky Lou's niece, Kathy Lou Moore. And you see the building behind him. There's a big factory there.
It says, what's that say?
It says Kelly's Niblick Vault Company. This is Bill and Becky before Darryl made his appearance into this great big old world. And I think it's over at Mr. and Miss Gregory's, Becky's mother and daddy's place. This is Bill and Darryl. And I think that's his car that they're in front of. I don't know how old Darryl was, but he sure does look happy. This is Bill and Becky, Mark, Dale, and Darryl at their first home on Maiden Street there in Danville. This is out at the Pleasant Hill Cemetery out at Bucksville. This is Bill. Next to him is Bobby and Glenn and Brenda. We had been out looking at the graves. That would be his granddaddy's, his great-granddaddy's, and his mother's graves.
Okay, next one down.
This is the same place, Bill and Becky and me and Earl.
On down.
This is my daddy's horse, Old Maud. And this is Bill and Becky and Glenn and Brenda. And I think this is Dale, and Daryl's behind him. Daddy let us have Old Maud down there for the children to ride.
Old Maud was a good old horse. We had a lot of good times together.
And she was a wonderful buggy horse.
Oh, there's Becky Lou. Little Annie Oakley.
This is still Old Maud down at the same place. I think she's getting ready to take a trip.
Gonna go out west, young lady. Oh, there's Bill, gonna follow after her.
Yeah, but I don't know how he's gonna do that when they're on the same horse, but different pictures.
Hmm.
That's gonna be a problem.
And who is this down here?
Well, this happened to be Becky and Bill. We had went with them on a trip out to Texas, and coming home, we went through Oklahoma. And I've heard that the Oklahoma hills has a name, and they think they're really high, and they are. You're on top of the mountain there.
King and Queen of the Hill.
Right. This is down at the old home place. This picture was made before the children went to school. That's Bobby and Glenn and Brenda. They look mighty happy.
I think the sun was in my eyes. Okay, on down.
I think this is in Bob and Ruthie's living room when they lived at Potter's Woods. And of course, that's Bobby and Ruthie, and she's holding Tim, and he's holding Nancy. And this other half, I don't know who that could be.
The unknown, half of a person.
It's made down at the home place in the corner of the yard, and behind the people, which is Earl and I, is a 5-in-1 apple tree. But we only got apples 1 year of the same kind, and the next year it might be the same kind. Not 5 different at once.
You're getting your hand in the way.
I'm sorry.
Next one.
This is the same setting, but different times of taking pictures, and this is Earl and me. We are ready to go to church. And down here in the corner, you can see the granary. And we had a car shed out at the side of it. Well, it's all fallen down now.
Next one.
This is the same setting, but you can get a different view of the granary. And this is Earl, Brenda, and Glenn. We was getting ready to go to church.
And who's that?
This happened to be Earl and Louise in our new home up on the hill that we nicknamed the North 30s.
The house was built in 1963. I came home one afternoon from school, and I had been moved from an old home to a new home. I didn't know where my home was supposed to be.
This is the Earl Maxwell family, not the grandchildren are not in there, but the children and their spouses are. I think you know every one of them, but anyway, this is Richard, Brenda, Earl kneeling, Sue behind him, I'm kneeling, Bobby's behind me, Ruthie, Bill, and Becky. And you can see the top of Glenn's head. He was in the Air Force, and you can see his cap and emblem.
And here's Glenn in his Air Force uniform.
And I don't know whether he was going to Japan or coming home from Japan. And I think it's in their car. I believe he was coming home, but I can't be sure. This is up on the North 30s in the new house. And this is me and Earl and Johnny. And my silver Christmas tree, which Brenda and Glenn had bought me, unbeknownst to me. And Earl and I went to Russell that day. And when I come home, the Christmas tree was up. And of course I cried, but I was happy.
And then we've traveled a long way, and we're at 305 Lincoln Street in Auburn.
Then. This is where I'm living now, it's Earl and me, but the address has been changed. It's 287 South Lincoln Street now.
Who's hiding in the bushes?
His hair's all cut off. That's Glenn, there's Sue, and that's Lou, and that's my daddy, and that's Mr. Maxwell. And back in the kitchen, you can see one of the twins, and over my daddy's head, you can see the other one's head. They were foster children we were keeping at the time. We kept children for 11 and a half years. And during that 11 and a half years, we had 35 children in our home, go through our home. This is Mr. Maxwell, Paul Esther, And we're having a family reunion there. We have it annually, once a year. If all of them could be there, fine. If they couldn't, the ones that could get there was there. And we always had plenty to eat. Just look at the table. And from this door in another room was the kitchen, and was plenty of food left in there to refill this.
And for all of you Maxwells who have a sweet tooth, we all took it after our granddaddy Lester Maxwell. He could eat more sweets than anybody.
And didn't have diabetes.
Okay, who we have here?
Well, this is the time that all the children were together after I got into the family. This is Mr. Maxwell, Ted, Carlton, Venice, Wiley, Earl, George, Jewel, Cullen, and Edna May sitting down at the table. And we had a wonderful time that day.
And lots of food.
And lots of friends come in to see Carlton and Venice and Ted. This is the same day at Mr. Maxwell's. Of course, he's sitting down, and Ted is sitting down, and Cullen's kneeling, or squatting, and right behind him is Mary, his wife, and then up above is myself and Earl, and I think that is Carlton. And he's talking to Lena Ayers, a friend of ours. A while ago, I thought it was. And down here, we're about all getting ready to go to our own homes. And this is Ted, the oldest boy. This is Cullen, the youngest boy, and the oldest boy is giving the youngest a bottle. Now this is the whole group that was there at that get-together. And this is Hard Myers. And this is Anita Suzette Maxwell, Cullen's daughter. And then there's Ted, Mr. Maxwell, Cullen, and Jewel, and Mary, and me, and Earl. And here's Carlton. And the rest of them, I don't know who they are. Up on the hill, the North 30s, we called it, and Carlton's home for a month's vacation, he and his wife. This is Earl, and this is me, this is Little May, and this is Carlton. And this is down up at Mr. Maxwell's the day that we had the reunion, and this is Earl, Carlton, and Jean, Carlton's daughter, and Little May, the mother and wife. Now this is Mr. Maxwell after he had got disabled to take care of himself, and he was in a private home on Mrs. Melvin Ogles. She took care of elderly people. And Ted and Venice and Wayne, which is Ted's son, came home to celebrate Mr. Maxwell's birthday, and I don't remember which birthday it was. About the 88th, I believe. And this is Cullen, Earl, and Jewel with Venice and Ted and Wayne. And this is a get-together at Edna May Ballew's. And this is up at her house in Bowling Green, Kentucky, in her living room. And this is George, this is Earl, and Jewel, and Venice, and Cullen. They had come home for, Venice had come home, he and his wife, for about a week. And this is the same day, in the same room where her dining room and kitchen, and the living room is combined. This is George and Jewel, Earl, Venice, Edna May, and Cullen. And we had lots of food to eat that day. As you can see and sense, the Maxwells believes in eating.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same setting, same day. This is a sister-in-law, Elmer, which is Venice's wife. This is Edna May. This is me. This is Evelyn, which is George's wife. This is Thelma, which is Cullen's wife. And this is Earl. He was getting up from the table, and they said, "Hold it." He did. Now, this is a homecoming that we had over at Brenda's and James's when they lived in a brick home. And this is Wiley. This is Edna May. And this is Earl. And this is Cullen. And this is James back here in the background.
Then up above,
Is, I don't know whose barn that is.
no, in the photograph above there.
Oh. Ready?
Yeah.
This is Edna May and her husband, Hodgin Doc Ballou, which has been gone for several years, and she lives alone.
And Uncle Doc could make the best chili. He was always making chili for the church suppers we had here at Auburn CP Church.
And then he had another pot of stuff that he would make that he called goulash, and I mean he put everything in it. He'd go out and get rabbits, squirrels, he might get a chicken,
Look toward us.
or whatever. I mean, he put everything in it but the kitchen sink, and it turned out good.
Yeah.
Well, this is up at Jewel Naderville's. She was sick, had gotten sick at the time, but she wanted all of us to be up there. And this is Johnny right over here. And right in the very corner there, you can see Ada Bell. Then there's me. There's Kathy Lou. And then there's Earl. There's Brenda Sue. And there's Mark. And somebody's hand is in the picture. It's got to be Darrell, because Darrell is with us at that time. See, food.
Darrell?
Every time you look, it's food.
Darrell didn't want to be left out, because right there he is in the next picture, looking like he's fixing to chow down.
And this is still at Ada Bell's, and this is her, Ada Bell. And Mark is standing there between her and Jewel. And then this is Johnny, and then this is me, and then there's Earl, and there's Darrell, and there's Brenda, and there's Bill, and there's Becky. And Earl couldn't wait, he's done started eating, and Darrell is fixing to. This is Cullen and his daughter, Anita Suzette Maxwell. And as we know of now, she is in Florida, and she has her own business, window washing.
Okay.
Down here is Mr. Maxwell's in his dining room, and this is Ted and Cullen and Mary, Cullen's wife, that is deceased several years back, and Phineas and Anita. This is at Cullen's and Thelma's house in Louisville. George and Edna May, George and Evelyn wanted to go, and George didn't think he could drive up there and back. So he got Earl and James and Brenda and I to go. James did the driving. This is Cullen. This is his grandson, Jason. This is Earl back here. This is James. That's Louise. This is Brenda. There's Evelyn. There's George, and there's Thelma. And her daughter was there and took the picture. And talking about a feast, we had it that day. This is in the living room up on the hill where we lived, as we call the North 30s. And I think Lynn's getting ready to go to service when this was made. And this is Earl and Lynn and me.
And then there's Susie.
And then down here, in this picture, Susie took Glenn's place and he took the picture. And we're both looking very happy, but very sad inside.
Then years later, we see a whole new person in the picture.
Yeah, Glenn and Sue, Glenn got discharged from service and came home. And during that time, they had this little doll. And this is great Aunt Ada Bell is holding. Isn't he a cutie pie?
Holding Allen, Glenn Allen Maxwell.
This picture was made when on, I guess it was on Monday, after we got back from Illinois on Sunday. We'd been up and spent several days with Bill and Becky. And this is Brenda and Earl and Glenn and J.C. Jewel's boy and our dog. I can't remember his name. And Earl was always clowning around, picking with the children, wrestling with them, pulling their ears or their toes or their nose. In this case, he thinks he's going to bite Glenn's ear, but I don't think he will. Now this is Earl with his new truck. See how happy he is? I don't know what he's doing with that can. Surely it's not gas.
Couldn't be gas with the hood up.
He's got the oil measuring stick in his hand. I guess he's measuring the oil. but I don't know what he's gonna do with that can, how he's gonna drain the oil out of it, because he was a great hand to change his own oil. He said then he knew what was done. Tractor. And he never did call it a tractor, it was Old Fuzzy. And I saw Old Fuzzy on its back wheels, looking like it was gonna turn completely backwards. I saw that it did scare Earl, but he didn't let on. And he thought what Old Fuzzy couldn't do could not be done. This is in Auburn, where I'm living at now. And Marvin Phillips had come up to spend the weekend with us. And this is Andrew. And he's got a rabbit, I believe, doggy in his hand, a stuffed doggy. And this is Marie that I'm holding. Aren't they sweet? This is an outing that we took Earl out. He was in the nursing home over at Elkton, Kentucky, the
Country Manor Nursing Home.
Country Manor Nursing Home over at Elkton, Kentucky. And we went every time we could on Saturdays or Sundays and took him out for a drive and went places. And this is over at Clarksville at the Dairy Queen. So that's Earl and that's me, and this is a van, which belonged to Brenda and James.
Daddy always loved to go, and even after getting the nursing home, he still liked to get up and go, and we did.
This is a house up on the North 30s, up on the hill. This is part of the back kitchen door that you see there. And this is Earl and myself and Grandma Cropper. She was, I suppose she was done in her 90s when that was made.
Rebecca Cropper, that was Mama's grandmother.
And this is my daddy, John William Cropper, and he went by the name of Bill. And this is my mother, Lola Holland Maxwell Cropper. And that was made long about the time that they got married in 1919. And this is my dad. My mother passed away when I was 13. He remarried, and this is my stepmother, Lou. And her name was Lula Mae Burns Cropper. So Dad went for the Lulas. This is Mother, Lula Cropper, and this is me in the wagon. I believe this I was about 5 months old, and this is my brother, Roy Wilbur Cropper, and it was made over Springfield, Tennessee. We was visiting my grandparents, Grandma and Grandpa Maxwell. This is me when I was about 3 or 4. And this is my cousin, a distant cousin, Dale McPhail. And you can see I love cats.
But not so much today.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
This is my brother, Roy Wilbur Cropper, when he was in the service. He spent about 4 years in the Army. He did duty over in Germany, and I can't think of the places, but several places. And at one time, we didn't know that he would ever get home. But then when we got the news that he was coming home, that was a happy time. This is Brenda on her wedding night when her and James Arthur Stamps got married. I think she looks mighty cute. And this is Johnny, her son. I don't know what she's doing to his ear.
In true fashion of my father, I was just clowning around.
And Johnny, he helped to give his mother away. Earl and Johnny gave Brenda away to James. And this is down at the Auburn Common Presbyterian Church. This is James, and this is Brenda, and they're standing by Pat Gregory's car. This is Johnny, his graduation from boot camp at Paris Island, South Carolina. And this is his friend. And he said it was a wonderful day when that happened.
And he got to come home after his boot camp days. He is a happy guy. Talking about happy guys, here's the happy guy that I married. This is James. This was a Halloween party that we gave for the youth group at the church. And James went as a devil. He was showing his true personality that night. Cat.
This
No.
one? This one?
Mm-hmm.
This is a Christmas out at Pat Gregory's. and we had a wonderful time. This is Catherine Wilson, which is Earl's second cousin, Bill's third cousin, and Daryl, Dale, and Mark's third cousin. And that's Earl there, holding her, looks like he's holding her up, clowning around as usual. This is Roger Gregory, John Barry, and myself, and James, you can see he's clowning around also. This is down at the Auburn Congregational Church, and this is Catherine Wilson, and this is her daughter Pat Gregory. We just got out of church.
This is Catherine Wilson. This is in the home of her daughter Pat. This was taken at a Christmas get-together. And the reason we're showing it like this today is that Mama Cat had a stroke or something happened to her on May the 20th of 1995, and she had to have brain surgery. And so today she is bedridden and cannot do anything for herself. But if you went into her room and saw her in a bed, this is how she would look. And here's James. I think we're at Topsail Island in North Carolina. And he was fascinated with the seagulls. I believe they were just about as fascinated with him. So it looks like he's having a pretty good conversation. I don't know who's understanding who, but it looks like they're all attentive to each other. He's communing with nature here. And here's Mom looking out at the ocean. And she said she was thinking at this time that this would be the last time I'll get to see the ocean. Well, we don't know. We haven't got back to it yet. But maybe someday. Here's Mom. Looks like she's getting in a bit of crocheting. Well, we didn't get to the ocean, but we did get her back to the water at Lake Malone. She's sitting on our pontoon. We've taken the pontoon up into part of the lake where there's a lot of shade trees. It was really hot this day, and we tied down in the shade, and it was pretty cool there where we were, and we all enjoyed it.
I am on the waters in the pontoon with Brenda, Glenn and James, and I surprised one son, and I think the other two sons, and I know I've surprised the rest of the family. I've turned out to be a great big fisherman, one fish. This is me on the waters in the pontoon down at the Lake Malone. I'm with Glenn and James. We went out fishing that day, and I surprised Glenn, and I think I really surprised my other two sons, and the rest of the family. I've turned out to be a big fisherman, one fish. This is a happy day for more than just Johnny and Tracy. This is the day they got married, the 31st of July, 1996, and the immediate family got to attend the wedding. They are a happy couple, but they're not any happier than the rest of us are.
Okay.
And this is one Sunday afternoon. We're on the pontoon, and we're way, way, way down the lake. And Tracy and Johnny and their doggy, Bailey, was with us. Tracy wanted to fish. Well, she caught a fish. When she got it out of the water, she said, "Oh, I know this is hurting. Get it off of there." Beat the cloud back to the marina. And he did. But from the marina to the travel trailer, we got pretty sprinkled that day.